just thinking at the level of intelligence civilization or group of people would need to have to make the decision to devote so many resources to craft something that is so cosmologically, geometrically, mathematically aligned on so many different accounts, right? You just gave a few, but there's hundreds of different.
Many more.
It's insane.
It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With also in the order of the pyramids and how they're all laid out on the plateau. And that's just one example, right, within Egypt.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think that box in the King's Chamber is really was, and what's the reality of the Ark of the Covenant?
That box is, first of all, the box that's inside the King's Chamber is not a sarcophagus. Okay, I can't fit in it. I'm 6'4". My knees would be slightly bent.
Yeah.
And so I think, if you're gonna take the energy and the time to hoist that heavy granite up there, at least make it a size that maybe somebody can really fit in there, right? So, but also the way it's set up in there, you can see it's off-centered, which means it might have been added later. It almost seems like an addition to the Great Pyramid, not something that was originally built into the structure. And then you look at the dimensions. So I said, this is interesting. Let me look at the dimensions of this thing. So I look at the dimensions of this probably in 2014 is when I found out the dimensions of that box, of that rose granite box inside the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid are the exact same dimensions of the Ark of the Covenant from the biblical text. And that kind of blew me away. I was like, wait a minute. The Ark of the Covenant would fit directly, smoothly right inside this box. I don't think there's any coincidences. So when you begin to realize, well, what is the Ark of the Covenant? It's a power source. And it's a power source that gives off some type of radiation. And we know this because if you didn't have on lead plates, according to the biblical information, you had to have on lead plates, rubber boots, and all this stuff on before you even touched it. And if you touched it without the rubber, guess what happened? You died instantly. This is in the Bible. So it's telling me electrical charge. And if you were around it too much without the right coverings and protection, your hair would fall out. Your eyes would bleed. You would become sick. Sounds like radiation sickness to me. So this thing might have been both electrical and radioactive at the same time. Perfect to put inside the King's Chamber, especially if, why would they add it? Especially if maybe the Great Pyramid's power generation system in some weird way had begun to malfunction because of the lack of water from the Nile running underneath it in the aquifer. So now we have to find a way to boost this thing. So we put the Ark of the Covenant in there because everywhere where they talk about the Ark, it's exuding immense power. It's repelling troops and army troops with these energy beams coming out of it in the Bible. You put that inside of the Great Pyramid, all of a sudden it becomes the energy source. And the reason why I believe that Moses was chased is when he left, and I believe that was actually Pharaoh Akhenaten, in my opinion, he took the Ark with him. It was like, oh man, we got to get the Ark back. That's a source of power for Egypt. But without that, we're back in the Stone Ages. Go get the Ark. And they chased him to go get the Ark. That's what I believe it was really all about.
So fascinating. I mean, man, the energy there is just insane.
Oh yeah, it is.
From laying in that box, whatever it is, which I did, and then also going into, well, there's a little chamber you can stand in on the way to the King's Chamber, right?
The antechamber.
Yeah.
It's called the antechamber. Okay. It magnifies your voice.
Yeah, man, I ohmed and toned in there, and it was like, I did it with a couple other people. It could only fit a few people.
Yeah.
And it was so powerful, like the resonant, coherent energy that like every cell in my body was just like bursting. It was pretty intense.
It's crazy. I just made a post about that today, actually, this morning. It's crazy, about the antechamber. Just a meme on my YouTube community. But yeah, that place is powerful, man. That resonance, and the resonance inside the King's Chamber, inside that box, it's like that 2-to-1 ratio. When you start ohming or you gong the box, it creates this crazy resonance. And some people have, out-of-body experiences.
Yeah, and also in the subterranean chamber with that, there's that small little tunnel that I called. Have you crawled through that? Because you're a pretty big guy.
I went down there till it got to the sand.
Yeah,
and then maybe another 20 meters would have been the drop down, another 30 straight down. So I got to the sand part where the rails ran out.
Right,
and I was like, oh man, this is getting small down here.
Yeah, so there's that which keeps going down, which potentially connects to the other pyramids or something. Like, we don't know. But then there's also that small little tunnel that's like, I don't know, maybe 30 meters that you can crawl to the end of, and it's a dead end with just granite crystal just like above you. And just insane. It's wild experience to actually feel experientially instead of just talking about it.
And to be inside of that time dilation bubble. because the Great Pyramid, the 2 million plus blocks of stone, is so much mass, it creates a time dilation bubble. So anybody that's within the direct, vicinity of the Great Pyramid or inside of it, you're in a time bubble. So people outside that bubble experience time slightly differently than you at the time, while you're in there.
Interesting.
Yeah,
must be like really subtle but calculatable in terms of the difference.
It's calculatable. It's very minute, but it's calculable. They've calculated it. Yeah, with atomic clocks.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to the time, Atlantis and Lemuria. For people that don't know, what is the understanding of the difference of the two? Are they the same thing at different periods of time?
Lemuria is supposedly even more ancient than Atlantis. We're here long before Atlantis was even built. And these people had achieved this particular high level of spiritual knowledge and spiritual technology. It was an island just off a huge continent, but right off the coast of Australia. And it had people there that had immense capabilities, telekinesis, psychic abilities. Telekinesis, for those who don't know, moving things with the mind, right? The ability to see the future, all these incredible things, and it was such an incredible spiritual place. They were in a golden age for a very, very long time. It's not quite clear. I put a map. I have an original map, or the drawing of one of the original maps of Lemuria from some old text that's inside of my book, the Epic of Humanity. So we kind of touch on it, but it literally was a time period where there was a multi-thousand-year golden age that existed on Earth. And it's not quite clear how it fell or what created the fall, but at some point, it could have been a geological disaster because they had achieved such a high level of spirituality, it's almost hard to think that they could have failed there. Maybe it could have been some type of unforeseen geological disaster, as back then, Earth was going through a lot of tumultuous changes. We just happened to meet this small window in time that we are right now, where things are actually kind of peaceful, but the Earth is, it's gone through some incredible geological things.
And so what do you see as the potential downfall of the Atlantean civilization? There was a cataclysmic event, you think, with the flash floods and everything?
Yep. So with the Atlantean civilization, I believe the collapse initially started from jealousy. And so the ring city was the focal point of this jealousy, where some of these Atlantean beings were marrying women, human women. And it was all racism. It's what it really was. Xenophobia,
speciesism, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's what is this? How dare you? And you violated blah, 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 blah. And it started with that. And then when they had given some of these people higher level of estate and higher levels of ranking, that even infuriated others more. And then there was a lot of great resources that seemed to have been hoarded from other capitals. And so that created even more jealousy. And you find that these factions or these people were relatives that were going against each other for control of humans and resources. And at some point, it seems as if that war reached its head and a big battle broke out. But that battle, I believe, extended from Earth all the way to the moon and even to Mars.
How does the moon fit into all of this?
When I started analyzing moon images, like old moon, long before Photoshop existed, images that anyone can download and get access to, you start seeing anomalies on there. And I got into this one data file called the Clementine mission, which is a declassified military low lunar orbiting satellite. And right away, when I saw the name Clementine, I knew it never came back, because Clementine is an old song. Oh, my darling Clementine, you were lost and gone forever. Oh, my darling Clementine. So I said, I bet this thing didn't come back. But it had data, downloadable gigs of data, of images it took of the moon on the other side. So I'm downloading this stuff like crazy.
On the other side of the moon?
Yeah.
Okay.
What they call the dark side.
Right.
I always call it the other side because it's not really dark.
Yeah.
People call it the dark side, but it's really not dark. But these images had incredible anomalies, but things that look like broken structures, broken things just appear to be everywhere. China sent a rover to the moon, and they made the mistake of transmitting in real time what the rover was seeing, and the rover got caught in debris. I mean, a lot of debris. And it's still, I think, publicly available. The image is online right now. And what was up there? I think even the whole moon mission was all about a reconnaissance mission to bring back pieces of what they saw may have been the remnants of an ancient civilization, which is why they showed you some part real and some part fake.
Right. What's up with the funky footage that looks like... So you do believe that we actually did go to the moon?
Yeah, we went to the moon.
But there's a lot of footage that just looks super staged, like wind moving through a flag and all this stuff.
It's well, the moon does have a very light atmosphere, believe it or not. It does hold it. It has water too. There's water on the moon. However, some parts were staged and some parts were real. The real moon mission wasn't just to put man on the moon and say, we were the first to make it. The race to the moon between us and Soviet Union was about to get to that technology. Who's going to be first to get, because we sent so many satellites around that moon before we ever went there. We even orbited the moon in a capsule before we decided to go, now we're going to land. So that Apollo 11 was a mission after many, 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 many missions. Even the Mercury missions had occurred already. It was about who's going to get their hands on this ancient technology. Who's going to get their hands on this stuff? What can it be used? The first thing they think about, how can we weaponize this stuff? That's the first thing they think about. What can we do to weaponize it? It was a race to get their hands on remnants and pieces of things to bring back to Earth to analyze and maybe even reverse engineer. So to keep everyone out of it, it's, hey, look at this. Look at this pretty moon. And here goes all these, these dry, dusty areas, nothing to see here. But at the end of the day, it was a reconnaissance mission that brought back a lot of things over many more moon missions that we did have. And right now, before they left, they put an array of satellites up there, and they operate on laser communications. And almost every day, we transmit from Earth to the moon a packet of data. Why are we sending packets of data to the moon? Like, why would we do that? Who's up there, and why would we do that? In the declassified, it actually became through a Freedom of Information Act. Freedom of Information Act request on the black box from Apollo 11 mission, the audio and the redacted printout of the audio, we have it. Anybody can download it now. In there, Neil Armstrong is looking down as they're orbiting the moon, and he sees what he calls a convex crater. He's talking about a dome structure. And then he says, wow, I bet the people in there never get out. Now, why would he say something like that? This was no joke. They weren't laughing, they weren't chuckling. He was dead serious. And then when you look at the USGS.gov ground-penetrating radar imagery from the former Arecibo satellite dish that we had in Puerto Rico, it shows you what's beneath the moon by about 30 meters, and it looks like gigantic beam structures. So what is going on with this moon? There's something going on with this moon. When the Apollo mission got to the dark side of the moon, comms is out of range now. So you lose comms with Earth because the moon's blocking it, right? Mm-hmm. But somebody hacked into the comms. Another FOIA Act request that we put in to get that information, and you can hear the audio. And the audio, they're going, oh my God, dude, I hear it. I hear it too. I hear it. There's something that's like music. It's music. What is this? It was something coming off the surface of the moon or somewhere in that vicinity had gotten to their comms. So there's a lot going on up there. And yes, we went to the moon, but yes, we lied about it.
Mm. So what do you make of the recent upsurge in UAP sightings and what people are saying contacts with extraterrestrial life? What do you think is happening right now at this time? Its significance and the possibility of like future humans also being extraterrestrials.
There's a lot going on. I'm glad you brought this up, because one thing is, do extraterrestrials exist? I say yes. In my opinion, 1,000% they exist. Human beings, in my opinion, are the new kids on the block. We just got here. On a geological time scale, we haven't been here for a blink of an eye. There's more advanced beings that have been out here, maybe even millions of years before us. That's number one. I think some of them visit us and some of them watch. They're watching and looking, studying, just like we go out to National Geographic. We go out to the wilderness of the Serengeti plains of Africa, and we look at these animals, and then we stun them, right, with a dart, and then we alien abduct them, and we take them out of their hides, and then we put little chips and plants in them, and we take them and we put them back in their place so they can wake up with lost time. And now they're stumbling around, wondering what happened, and then we track them and watch them. I think that's what's happening to human beings. Not in a negative way, just to see like how we're developing and where we're going and how we're going to come from where we are to where we're going to go.
Not too different from what we're doing with animal species that's right below us in terms of development.
Exactly. That's what we're doing. It's the as above, so below. It's okay. It's never going to change. And so I believe that they're real. Now, also so there are real UFOs, but there are UAPs. These UAPs, which is why they changed the name, are things that we have reverse engineered based on discovered craft that were left behind or crashed. And how would they crash? People say, well, if they're so smart, why'd they crash? Well, space travel is not safe. It's hard. And if you come to a planet and you don't know that they may have a particular type of radar, which is what they were using in 1947, a scalar beam, you don't know that maybe this scalar wave is going to disorient your ship and your navigation system, and it's going to make you crash. I think they figured this out by accident when they went to scan to see what the heck this thing was moving across the sky using this new technology called scalar, which Nikola Tesla had left the plans about. They actually rebuilt this thing. That it brought down the craft. And then when they recovered the craft, they reverse engineered the craft. And so that began the process of learning how to crash these things and reverse engineer some of them. These UAPs are alien reproduction vehicles, things that we've created ourselves based on lost or discovered tech that's not from Earth. And also other technologies have come out of that, like Velcro, fiber optics, microchips have all come from these craft, these downed crafts, by the way. And so the UAP problem is a big one for human beings, and because it's a narrative being controlled by the governments. And why would they want to do that? Well, look at the way that we've been putting war out on this planet to create money, generate money from war. There's not a lot more places, there's not too many more places we can go to have a war with right now. We've had all the wars. I mean, right now, the wars that are going on aren't between really us technologically. We're making a little bit of money off of those wars, but not as much as we have made in the past. The next big move is space. And to do that, you have to get everyone on the same page. We need to divert trillions of dollars into space weapons and space protection, the Space Force. And to get this to happen and take money away from education and take money away from healthcare and all these other incredible things that we really need and the cures for diseases and illnesses, what we're going to do is we're going to take that money and we're going to create weapons because we are on the board of directors of all these corporations like Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin, and we want to get our checks, okay? So we're going to tell you that there's UAPs that are dangerous to us. They're going to come maybe and attack us one day. They might even have one shoot a ship in the ocean, a naval vessel in the ocean, just like we did at the Gulf of Tonkin incident to create the Vietnamese War. It's the same story playing out all over again. And we have to be really aware and careful to understand exactly what the game is being played, what game is being played, and how we can navigate this and understand what's real and what's not real. And I think that the potential for a fake alien invasion is very high because it would allow them to divert trillions of dollars without question from us into whatever programs that they want. And those will be black budget programs that we still won't know about what they're doing. We're doing something good with it, don't worry. They just released the first AI jet, completely autonomous, and it went into a dogfight. This was 2 weeks ago. They had to put it in a real dogfight to test it out. We're on Skynet. So now Skynet is active. This thing is out there with its own mind and its own weapons. What happens when it just says, I'm going to go on my own mission? So this is where we are right now. We're on a precipice. Like we're advancing consciously, but at the same time, we haven't regained our power from the small few that are implementing these dark technologies.